Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I get a lot of questions on what gear and talents to run for our 2v2 comp, so I thought I would just make a quick little video going over everything. The main idea behind it is having as much crit as possible while staying above 300 resilience, which I think is important. The Brutal Helm, I decided to go with the Stamina Resil Helm enchant because otherwise, you dip below 300 resilience, which I think is an important breakpoint to be at. Next is the PvP neck. This is the one I'll be using. The stats are pretty solid. You get to put a 10 crit gem in there, which is nice. But if you're jewel crafting, I would use this pendant of Sunfire. It's really, really good. Stats are solid all around, and it's nice to have the extra haste. But since I'm not jewel crafting, I'll just be sticking with this guy. Next is the Season 4 shoulders. It's pretty standard, and I like to run one spell pen gem and one crit gem. Next is the Cloak of the Illidari Council. This thing drops in Black Temple, and if you raid, you should be able to get your hands on it. Stats are really good. There's not really another cloak that has that much spell crit along with a high spell power. If you can't get that, you could also use the Cloak of Subjugated Power from badges, but the crit and spell power is a little bit low on that, but it's still a good alternative. Next is the Season 4 chest, which I think is worth picking up first, because you get to put 3 sockets in it, get a lot of crit rating, which is really important. Then we've got the PvP bracers. These are pretty standard. Want to put a crit gem in there. Next is one of the big items you'll want to get. This thing drops from Sunwell off of Fellmist. This is the item I want the most out of this whole season for a lot of reasons, but the main one being the 50 spell hit rating you get. This is really important because as this build, you're generally pretty hit starved. Right now I have to use the hit wand to be able to be above hit cap, but with this thing, you're way over the hit cap. And also the stats are insane. Tons of crit. Definitely get your hands on this thing if you can. Next is the wand from Sunwell Trash. This thing's really solid all around. It's got haste, a good amount of spell power, pretty decent stats. Got the PvP trinket, lots of resilience, which is nice. The lightning capacitor. This is probably the most important item for this comp, I think. It synergizes so well with Molten Armor and this talent, Molten Shields. It's basically proccing all the time from ranged and melee attacks, and some games it'll be 20% of my damage. You notice it most with rogues and warriors, which you see all the time. Next, you've got the PvP ring. This thing is just really, really good. It's got 4 stats on it. The haste is nice to have, and the spell pen is really nice. Next is the Hyjal rep ring. This thing is really nice for the comp because it procs all the time and it's extra damage. If you've been raiding, you probably have this thing already, but if not, I think you could use this guy from Sunwell. The stats are really nice on it. You get crit along with a little bit of resilience, so this is a good alternative to have. Next is the PvP boots. These are pretty standard, solid stats all around. Next is the leggings of Calamity. These drop off Brutalis and Sunwell. Stats are just insane. The main thing being the crit you get from them, the 3 sockets, the insane amount of spell power, and also the spell haste is really nice to have. Next is the Noose from Hyjal. This is what I personally want to use because it has a lot of spell power along with having tons of crit rating if you double socket crit. If you don't have that, I think it's fine to use the Silk Belt. The stats are pretty similar, along with the armor being really nice. Then you've got the Season 4 gloves, pretty standard. If you're seeing a lot of Warrior Druid, I do think it's worth using the Merciless gloves. The range on Fire Blast is super noticeable against warriors. You can stop them from getting the charge on you. ZTK sent me his BIS list for this comp. From what he's told me, the most important thing is being as tanky as possible and having a good amount of mana regen. Bile is also an option instead of Battle Masters, but Battle Masters is still really good to have. And then he's got the talents that he runs, which you can take a look at. For the talents, I'm not going to go over each one individually. I'll point on some of the more important ones that you need to have for this comp. The first one being Arcane Concentration. It's pretty standard mage ability, but it's really nice for this comp because it synergizes with a few things. You get to use your spells for free, along with getting 30% more crit, and you do 50% more damage with your spells. I go with 3 points in Arcane Impact because when you're killing, you basically are just spamming all your instant damage, and if you can get some of your arcane explosions to crit, you usually are in a good position to win. Next is Improved Counterspell. This is an absolute must-have for when you're going for a kill. You just blanket silence one of the healers, send all your damage, and hope you get a kill. Next is Arcane Meditation. I think this is extremely important because first, healer DPS games tend to go on for a pretty long time, and you need to have mana to be able to do damage, obviously, but it's very noticeable when you don't have the 3 points here. So you definitely want to have this talent right here. Next is Improved Blink. This thing is absolutely essential. There's so many games I've won because I'll blink and I don't get hit by a counterspell or kidney shot or a stun will miss. Definitely important to have. I just wanted to touch on, I don't think it's worth putting any points in Improved Mana Shield. You really don't want to be using Mana Shield much at all. It's kind of like what you press if you have no other way to avoid dying. So I don't think it's worth putting points in this. This is the big one, Presence of Mind. Gotta have this guy so you can send your damage. 3 points here, more spell damage and crit, it's really good. 3 points here, so you can get more crits and clear cast. Definitely super important. Next is Arcane Power. Obviously super important because you do more damage. Things cost more mana, but that's not really a big deal because you usually use it on your go when you have a clear casting. Then we've got Spell Power. Definitely extremely important because your crits are going to hit for way more. 5 points in Impact. Procs all the time, procs with Molten Armor and all your damaging spells. 2 points here so you can have more range on all your fire spells. 5 points in Ignite, so you can do more damage when you crit. Pyro, because who doesn't love this spell, right? 2 points here in Burning Soul, so you can avoid pushback when you're getting hit. And this works with Earth Shield, so when you've got Earth Shield up, you don't get any pushback if this thing procs, which is super nice and very noticeable. We only take 1 point in Incineration so that we can have 2 points here in Spell Power. I think it's fine to lose 2% crit on Fire Blast and Scorch so that we can do more damage with all of our crits. 3 points in Improved Scorch. This is going to be your main spell that you're casting all the time. You don't really cast Fireball too often. You're basically just going to be spamming Scorch the whole game. And if you can get 5 Scorches up, the target takes 15% more damage, which is huge. You'll basically want to keep 5 Scorch on your kill target at all times. Then we've got Molten Shields. This synergizes with your Lightning Cap trinket along with Molten Armor. Basically anyone that hits you is going to be taking damage from your Molten Armor and has the chance to stun them with Impact. Must have for this comp. We've got Critical Mass because who doesn't love having 6% crit? Then you got Blast Wave. Spell is super nice, does a ton of damage. It also dazes the target, which is nice for when you're chasing priests and paladins, things that can dispel all your other slows. And then you've got probably my favorite Fire Mage spell, Blazing Speed. This thing is super nice when melee are hitting you. It can proc over and over and over, and then sometimes it never procs, but if you can get a Blazing Speed proc when a warrior or a rogue is on you, you can just zoom away. It's definitely game changing. I'm going to leave a link for 2 more lists I put together. This one being if you don't do any raiding this season, you just Arena and BG, something you can aim for. along with a list for maybe if you're a fresh 70, something you can kind of aim for from BGs in Arena. I hope this video helps clear up some of the questions you guys had over gearing and talents. But if not, let me know if there's something I can help you with. Alright, thanks for watching everyone. See ya.